Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins where history meets hidden treasure, and small pieces of copper can turn into big money. Today, we are going to explore the incredible story of the 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny, a coin that has captivated collectors and investors alike for decades because of its unique background, rarity, and astonishing market value, which currently stands at over $40,728. So sit back, relax, and join me on this journey as we travel through time to uncover how a humble 1-cent coin from 1958 with no mint mark became one of the most desirable treasures in American numismatics, and why its legacy continues to shine in the eyes of coin enthusiasts. To understand the importance of the 1958 no mint mark wheat penny, we first need to go back to the origins of the Lincoln cent itself, which made its debut in 1909 as a replacement for the Indian head cent designed by Victor David Brenner. The Lincoln cent was the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. This was a revolutionary design choice at the time because prior to 1909, U.S. coins traditionally featured allegorical representations of liberty rather than portraits of actual leaders. The decision to honor Lincoln came during the centennial of his birth in 1909, making it both a political and cultural milestone. The obverse of the coin features the profile of Abraham Lincoln facing right with the words "In God We Trust" above liberty on the left, and the date of issue on the right. The reverse in 1958 still carried the classic wheat ears design, which had been in use since 1909. This design features two stylized wheat stalks flanking the words 1 cent United States of America and E pluribus unum at the top. This is why collectors often call these coins wheat pennies or wheat cents. Now, by 1959, the reverse design would change to the Lincoln Memorial, marking the end of the wheat cent era. So the 1958 issue is extremely significant because it represents the final year of the iconic wheat design that had been a staple of American coinage for half a century. Collectors view the 1958 wheat penny as the closing chapter of one of the most beloved designs in U.S. coinage history. Let us now take a closer look at the minting details. In 1958, the Philadelphia Mint produced the no-mint mark wheat pennies, while the Denver Mint struck the 1958 D pennies. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of coins, but only a small fraction survive today in high-grade condition or with errors that make them extremely valuable. The absence of a mint mark on the 1958 penny simply means it was struck in Philadelphia, because at that time the Philadelphia Mint did not use mint marks on pennies. So if you look at your 1958 wheat cent and do not see a letter D below the date, then you have a no mint mark coin from Philadelphia. While most 1958 no mint mark wheat pennies are common and worth only a few cents to a couple dollars in circulated condition, certain rare examples in pristine uncirculated condition or with unique era varieties have fetched astonishing prices at auctions and among collectors, and that is where the incredible market value of $40,728 comes into play. One of the most famous and valuable varieties of the 1958 penny is the 1958 double die obverse. This era coin features strong doubling in the inscriptions "Liberty in God We Trust" and the date 1958. The doubling is so prominent that it can easily be seen with the naked eye and not just under magnification. Only a handful of these double die pennies are known to exist, making them one of the rarest and most desirable Lincoln cent varieties ever discovered. In fact, the 1958 double die penny is often referred to as the king of Lincoln cent errors because of its extreme rarity and the high demand from collectors. When one appears at auction, it can sell for tens of thousands of dollars and sometimes even more depending on the grade and condition. Imagine finding one of these rare double die pennies in your change or in an old jar of coins lying around the house. It is the dream of every collector to stumble upon such a treasure, because a single coin could change your financial situation overnight, turning 1 cent into tens of thousands of dollars. This is exactly what makes the story of the 1958 no mint mark penny so fascinating. Now let us talk about coin grading, which plays a huge role in determining the value of the 1958 penny. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state, and higher grades mean higher value for the 1958 double die pennies. The ones in mint state condition, especially MS-64 and above, are extremely valuable. These coins can reach values of $40,728 or more because they combine rarity with high-grade preservation. Collectors pay attention to details like luster, strike sharpness, and the absence of wear marks when determining the grade. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC are often used to authenticate and grade these coins to ensure their authenticity and market value. Another important factor that adds to the appeal of the 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny is its place in history. As I mentioned earlier, 1958 was the final year for the wheat reverse design. After this year, the U.S. Mint transitioned to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, which lasted until 2008. This makes the 1958 issue a historic end of an era coin that carries special sentimental and collector value even beyond the era varieties. Think of it this way: if you hold a 1958 wheat penny, you are holding the last chapter of a 50-year story that began in 1909 with Victor David Brenner's classic wheat design. Collectors treasure this fact, and many people choose to keep 1958 pennies in their collection simply for historical reasons, even if they are not the rare doubled die variety. But when it comes to investment value, it is truly the doubled die 1958 penny that takes the spotlight, with market values soaring into the tens of thousands of dollars. One particular specimen graded by PCGS has been recorded selling for $40,728 at auction. This price shocked the numismatic community and reinforced the legendary status of this coin. Now you may be wondering how you can tell if you have a rare 1958 doubled die penny. First, examine the lettering on the obverse. If you notice clear doubling on Liberty, on the motto "In God We Trust," and on the date 1958, then you may have a doubled die penny. Another sign is the strength of the doubling, because minor doubling or machine doubling is fairly common, but the true 1958 doubled die has strong and dramatic doubling that is unmistakable. If you suspect that you have one of these rare coins, the best step is to have it authenticated by a professional grading service. Not only does this confirm its authenticity, but it also secures its value in the marketplace, because collectors and investors are willing to pay premium prices for certified coins. The story of the 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny also highlights the broader appeal of coin collecting as a hobby and as an investment. What other hobby allows you to hold history in your hand, while also potentially discovering treasures worth thousands of dollars? Coin collecting connects us to the past, teaches us about history, art, and economics, and sometimes rewards us with surprising financial gains. As we approach the conclusion of this deep dive, let us reflect on why the 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny is so extraordinary. First, it is the final year of the classic wheat reverse design. Second, it features one of the rarest and most valuable double die errors in the entire Lincoln Cent series. Third, it has proven to be a coin capable of reaching jaw-dropping auction prices like $40,728. And finally, it continues to inspire collectors to search through their pocket change in hopes of finding that one special coin. So the next time you come across a jar of old coins or receive change at the store, take a closer look, because you never know if you might be holding a piece of history worth thousands of dollars in your hand. The 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny serves as a reminder that small things can carry great value, and that treasures are sometimes hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey into the history and value of the 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny. If you enjoyed this story and learned something new, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of rare coins. Until next time, keep searching, keep collecting, and who knows, maybe the next treasure you find will be the one that changes everything. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we are diving deep into the incredible story, history, and market value of a coin that many people may overlook but collectors know can be a true hidden gem: the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny coin. This small copper-colored coin might seem like an ordinary piece of pocket change at first glance, but when we peel back the layers of its story, we discover that it carries with it an extraordinary tale and a surprisingly high value in today's collector market. In fact, the current market value of some rare specimens of this coin has been recorded at an astonishing $58,523. Now let us begin by stepping back into the history of the Lincoln penny itself before we zoom in on the specific year 1980 and the no-mint mark variety. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. President Theodore Roosevelt felt that the nation needed more beautiful coinage, and Lincoln became the first historical figure to appear on a regular issue American coin. The design was created by Victor David Brenner, and it replaced the Indian head cent that had been in circulation since 1859. Brenner's portrait of Lincoln on the obverse became iconic and remains one of the most recognized coin designs in United States history. Fast forward to 1959, the reverse design of the penny was changed to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and the 50th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself, the wheat ears reverse was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial reverse designed by Frank Gasparo. This design showed the stately Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and even included a tiny image of the seated Lincoln inside the memorial, a detail that fascinated collectors and everyday Americans alike. From 1959 until 2008, the Lincoln Memorial reverse was the image seen on the back of the penny, which means that in 1980 the penny featured this Lincoln Memorial reverse. Now let us place ourselves in the year 1980. Ronald Reagan was campaigning for the presidency, the economy was battling inflation, and the United States Mint was busy producing billions of coins for everyday commerce. During this period, the penny was still made primarily of copper. Each coin contained 95% copper and 5% zinc, and weighed 3.11 grams. This composition would continue until 1982, when the mint changed to a primarily zinc composition due to rising copper prices. This makes the 1980 penny one of the last years to contain the heavier copper alloy, giving it a special place in the timeline of Lincoln cents. But what makes the 1980 no mint mark penny so fascinating and valuable? The answer lies in understanding mint marks and the conditions of production. A mint mark is a small letter placed on a coin to identify where it was made. Coins from Philadelphia traditionally bore no mint mark, while those from Denver carried a D and those from San Francisco carried an S. In 1980, pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint did not carry a mint mark at all, meaning that when we talk about a 1980 no mint mark penny, we are referring to coins struck at the Philadelphia facility. At first glance, it might seem like every 1980 penny from Philadelphia would be common, since the mint struck hundreds of millions of them, but the reality is that value comes from condition, rarity, and high grades and striking errors. Even though the Philadelphia Mint struck huge numbers of these pennies, most were spent heavily in circulation, meaning that finding a pristine example today is very challenging. Most examples in average circulated condition are worth only face value, perhaps a cent or two, but when you encounter a 1980 no mint mark penny in immaculate condition with a perfect strike free of scratches and preserved as if it just left the mint, those coins become rare treasures. Collectors use the Sheldon scale to grade coins, ranging from poor at the very bottom all the way to mint state grades like MS65, MS66 and higher. When a 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny is found in grades MS67 or MS68 with beautiful red coloration, the value skyrockets. Auction records show that such specimens have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, which is why we see the remarkable market valuation of $58,523 for certain examples. Now let us explore what collectors look for when identifying a valuable 1980 penny. First is luster, a strong cartwheel effect that makes the coin shimmer under light. Second is strike quality, where the details of Lincoln's face, hair, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse are crisp and fully defined. Third is color, which is designated as red, brown, or brown by professional grading services. A red coin with nearly full original mint color is far more desirable than a brown coin with faded surfaces. And finally, we consider the absence of marks, scratches, or bag damage. A coin with clean fields free of distracting marks will always command higher prices. It is also important to highlight that some errors and varieties from 1980 pennies can bring in significant premiums. Collectors search for doubled die obverse repunched mint marks, though not common in Philadelphia since there was no mint mark, and off-center strikes, broad strikes, or other striking errors. Even a dramatic off-center strike can take a penny worth a cent and raise its value into the hundreds or thousands depending on the severity of the error. Let us take a moment to compare the 1980 no mint mark penny with its counterparts from the same year. The 1980 D penny was struck in Denver, and the 1980 S proof penny was struck in San Francisco. The proofs were made for collectors with mirror-like finishes, but the Philadelphia no mint mark penny in pristine circulation strike condition has shown itself to be the true standout when it comes to extraordinary auction values. This demonstrates how coins that were once pocket change can now become prized assets decades later. To better understand why the 1980 no mint mark penny can reach such high prices, we must also look at the broader coin market. Coin collecting, also known as numismatics, thrives on rarity, demand, and condition. Lincoln cents have one of the largest collector bases of any U.S. coin series because they are accessible, affordable at entry levels, and yet they contain extremely rare and valuable varieties that attract advanced collectors. This dual appeal keeps interest strong year after Here, the story of the 1980 penny is also tied to the history of composition change. By 1982, the cost of copper had risen so high that the metal content of a penny was worth more than the coin itself. This forced the mint to change to zinc with a thin copper coating weighing only 2.5 grams. Thus, the 1980 penny represents one of the last true copper pennies of the modern era, which gives it additional historic importance. Collectors cherish copper coins for their heft, their ringing sound when dropped, and their connection to traditional coinage metals. So how can someone determine if their 1980 no-mint mark penny is valuable? The first step is to carefully examine the coin under good lighting. Check the color and luster. If it is bright red and free from wear, it may be worth grading. The second step is to inspect for errors such as doubling or misstrikes. The third step is to compare the coin against auction records and price guides. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can authenticate and grade coins, and high-grade results often translate directly into high market value. Auction houses have documented incredible sales for 1980 pennies in MS67 red and higher. These are the coins that break records and shock casual observers who cannot imagine a penny selling for the price of a new car or even a house. This brings us back to the figure of $58,523, which has been cited for premium grade examples when two determined collectors bid against each other for the finest known coin. The price can soar into these extraordinary heights. This is why the story of the 1980 no-mint mark penny is so captivating. It reminds us that history, value, and rarity can hide in plain sight right in our pockets. In fact, many coin collectors began their journeys by noticing small details on pennies and realizing that these tiny coins could unlock a world of history, artistry, and financial value. The 1980 penny may not be as famous as the 1909 SVDB penny or the 1955 double die, but it holds a special place as a modern copper cent with surprising potential. Let us also consider how the Lincoln penny connects generations. Many of us remember receiving pennies as change from a store or finding them in piggy banks. Grandparents pass down coin collections to their grandchildren, and often a humble penny is what sparks a lifelong fascination with history and collecting. The 1980 penny is part of this living history, a bridge between the older copper coins of the past and the newer zinc coins that dominate today. Looking forward, the future market value of the 1980 no-mint mark penny may continue to rise as fewer pristine examples remain available. Every year coins are lost, damaged, or corroded, which only increases the rarity of high-grade survivors. With modern technology, collectors can track populations of coins graded at each level, and when only a handful exist at the highest grade, competition can become intense, driving values even higher. So the next time you come across a 1980 penny, take a closer look. Even though most are common, there is always a chance that your coin might be the hidden gem worth thousands. Remember to check the details, the color, the condition, and if you feel you have something special, do not hesitate to consult a professional grading service. The year was 1982, and it was a historic turning point in the long story of the Lincoln 1-cent penny coin. The coin that millions of people held in their pockets, purses, and jars at home had been around for decades, but 1982 was not just another year for the Lincoln penny. It was the year that marked a significant transformation in the composition of the coin, a change that collectors and historians still talk about today, and a year that created one of the most remarkable discoveries in modern numismatics. The 1982 D-Mint mark Lincoln cent is more than just a small piece of copper and zinc. It is a symbol of transition, of rarity, and of hidden value waiting to be discovered in everyday change. To understand the importance of the 1982 penny, we need to take a step back and look at the history of the Lincoln cent. The Lincoln 1-cent coin was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin became the first circulating U.S. coin to feature the image of a real person. It quickly became a favorite among the public and has remained in continuous production ever since. Over the decades, the design saw small changes such as the wheat ears on the reverse, which lasted until 1958, and then the Lincoln Memorial reverse, which was introduced in 1959 to mark Lincoln's 150th birthday. These changes kept the penny fresh, but its composition largely stayed the same until 1982. For much of the 20th century, the Lincoln cent was made primarily of copper with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This gave the penny its rich reddish-brown color and its distinct feel, but by the late 1970s and early 1980s the price of copper began to rise significantly as the value of the copper in each penny approached and even exceeded the face value of 1 cent. The U.S. Mint faced a difficult decision. It simply became too expensive to keep producing pennies out of nearly pure copper. The government needed a solution, and 1982 became the year of change. That year the Mint introduced a new composition for the Lincoln cent, shifting from mostly copper to a cheaper core of zinc coated with a thin layer of copper. The new coins were 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. The change may have seemed small, but it created one of the most fascinating years in U.S. coinage history because both copper and zinc cents were struck in 1982. Collectors today know this year as a transitional year, and it is one of the most challenging sets of pennies to collect because of the multiple varieties. In 1982 there were not just 1 or 2 versions of the penny but actually 7 major varieties when you count the different compositions, the different mint marks, and even the differences in the size of the date on the coin. Some pennies were struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark, others in Denver with the D mint mark, and some had large date numerals while others had small date numerals. Combine that with the copper and zinc changes, and you get a wide range of possibilities for the collector. This is a dream because it adds challenge, variety, and rarity. Now let us focus on the 1982 D Mint Mark penny, which was produced at the Denver Mint. Denver has long been known for producing coins for everyday circulation, and in 1982 millions of pennies were struck with the D Mint Mark, but hidden among these coins are a few that became legends. The Denver Mint struck both copper and zinc cents, and because of the transition it is possible to find rare errors and varieties that are worth far more than face value. The most famous and valuable of these is the 1982 D small date copper penny. This coin was not supposed to exist at all, but somehow a small number were minted before the switch to zinc was fully complete, and these coins made their way into circulation. This rare variety has sold for incredible sums at auctions, with some examples reaching tens of thousands of dollars, and today the current market value of a high-grade specimen is reported at around $93,765. Imagine finding a single penny in your pocket worth that much money. Collectors often ask how to tell the difference between the copper and zinc versions of the 1982 penny. One simple test is the weight. A copper penny from that year weighs about 3.11 grams, while a zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams. This difference may not seem like much, but with a small scale it is easy to tell them apart. Another way is the sound test. Copper coins make a ringing sound when dropped on a hard surface, while zinc coins have a duller thud. These are tricks that collectors use to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. The small date versus large date distinction is also crucial. On a small date 1982 penny the numbers in the date appear thinner, with the 2 having a slight curve at the base, while on the large date the numbers look bolder and the 2 has a flat base. This detail can be tricky for new collectors, but once you learn to recognize the difference, you will see how important it is when searching for rare varieties. Now let us imagine the thrill of a collector or even an ordinary person who one day picks up a handful of change and notices a 1982 D penny. It looks like nothing special at first glance, but after weighing it and checking the date style, they realize they are holding a copper small date variety. The shock and excitement of such a discovery is hard to describe. For many collectors, this is the dream, to find a coin worth nearly $100,000 in everyday change. It is a reminder that treasures are still out there waiting to be found. But beyond the thrill of value, the 1982 D penny also carries historical weight. It represents a moment in time when the United States was making economic adjustments, when metal prices were soaring, and when the mint had to act quickly to keep up with changing conditions. It is a story of adaptation, of technology, and of how even the smallest coin can reflect broader economic realities. That is why coin collectors are not just hobbyists, they are historians holding pieces of the past in their hands. Over the years, the market for rare 1982 D pennies has remained strong as more people become aware of the varieties and errors. Collectors eagerly search through their old jars of coins in hopes of striking it rich. Auction houses report enthusiastic bidding whenever one of these rare pennies comes up for sale, and prices have climbed steadily. The current estimated value of $93765 for a high-grade example shows how much demand there is and how scarce these coins truly are. If you are someone interested in collecting coins, the 1982 Lincoln Cent series is an excellent place to start because it offers a mix of affordability and challenge. Most of the common varieties are easy to find and cost only a few cents, but the rare varieties can be worth thousands. This makes the hunt both Accessible and exciting for beginners and rewarding for advanced collectors, it teaches patience, sharpens the eye, and connects you to history in a very tangible way. Now let us take a moment to reflect on the broader legacy of the Lincoln penny. For more than a century it has been a symbol of America, carrying the image of Abraham Lincoln, the president who preserved the Union through the Civil War and ended slavery. His face has been on the penny longer than any other figure has appeared on a U.S. coin. The penny reminds us not only of Lincoln but of the idea that even the smallest coin has value in the great system of commerce, and when that small coin turns out to be worth thousands or even tens of thousands, its symbolic value becomes even greater. The 1982 D Mint Mark penny is a perfect example of how everyday objects can surprise us with hidden stories and hidden fortunes. It is a coin that bridges the past and the present, that shows how economic necessity led to change, and how accidents in the minting process created treasures for future generations of collectors. It is a coin that asks us to look closely at what we hold in our hands, because you never know when an ordinary penny might turn out to be extraordinary. So the next time you receive change at a store or dig through an old jar of coins at home, take a careful look at the pennies, especially those from 1982. Pay attention to the mint mark, the date, style, and if possible the weight. You might just uncover a small date copper variety from Denver that could change your life forever. The chance may be slim, but as history has shown, it is possible, and that is what keeps collectors searching year after year. In conclusion, the 1982 D Mint Mark Lincoln cent is not just another coin, it is a piece of history, a product of economic change, and a rare treasure that continues to capture the imagination of collectors. Its story reminds us that history is all around us, even in the smallest coins we often overlook, and with a current market value of $93,765 for the rarest variety, it stands as proof that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with curiosity and patience to discover them. Welcome to today's video, where we will dive into the fascinating story of one of the most extraordinary coins in American numismatic history, the 1987 No Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny coin. This coin is not only a piece of everyday currency but a window into American history, a symbol of design excellence, and in rare cases an artifact of error and rarity that turns a common penny into a small fortune. If you are a collector, a history enthusiast, or simply someone who is curious about how a tiny copper coin can reach a current market value of $76,987, then stay tuned, because this story will captivate your imagination. Let us begin with the origins of the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln 1-cent coin was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of President Abraham Lincoln. He was the 16th President of the United States and one of the most influential figures in American history, known for his leadership during the Civil War and for issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, which paved the way to ending slavery in the country. Lincoln became the first historical figure to be honored on a circulating United States coin. Up until that point, most coins featured Lady Liberty in various forms, but the decision to place Lincoln on the cent was groundbreaking. The designer of the Lincoln cent was Victor David Brenner, an accomplished sculptor and engraver. Brenner's initials VDB originally appeared on the reverse of the 1909 coin in a prominent fashion, which led to some controversy, and ultimately their removal. Later on, his initials were restored in a smaller and more discreet location on the coin near Lincoln's shoulder. The obverse side of the coin featured a right-facing portrait of Lincoln that became one of the most iconic images in all of American coinage. The reverse at first carried 2 stalks of wheat and the denomination 1 cent, which gave rise to the name wheat penny. This design lasted until 1959. 1959, the cent underwent a major design change to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse was redesigned by Frank Gasparo to feature the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This design was used for 5 decades until 2008, making the Lincoln Memorial cent one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage history. By 1987, the Memorial reverse was well established, and the coin was being minted in large numbers at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Now let us turn to the year 1987. It was an important time for coin collectors because the U.S. Mint had been experimenting with different compositions of the penny for many decades. The coin was made primarily of copper, but in 1982 rising metal costs forced a dramatic change. The Mint transitioned from a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc to a primarily zinc core with a thin copper plating. This made the penny cheaper to produce but also gave it slightly different physical properties. Collectors today know that coins from the early 1980s can exist in both copper and zinc varieties, and identifying which one you have can be a treasure hunt in itself. By 1987, all regular pennies were being struck in the new copper-plated zinc composition. However, one of the mysteries that adds value to certain coins is the presence or absence of mint marks. Mint marks are small letters on a coin that identify the mint facility where the coin was produced. A D represents Denver and S represents San Francisco, and AP represents Philadelphia. Though the Philadelphia Mint usually struck coins without a mint mark, there are occasional anomalies in coin production that create no mint mark varieties that should not exist or appear in an unusual way. These errors or anomalies are what fuel collector excitement. The 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny is one such rarity. In normal cases, Philadelphia cents of that year should not have carried a mint mark at all, but the value lies in unique die errors or in coins that show unusual blank areas where a mint mark might have been expected. In other denominations, collectors discovered that certain examples of the 1987 Lincoln cent with no mint mark displayed die characteristics, unusual strikes, and other markers that separated them from the common billions of pennies in circulation. These distinctions elevated their status into the realm of rarity. Now let us talk about how such a small coin can reach a staggering market value of $76,987. To understand this, we must explore the world of coin grading and rarity. The value of any collectible coin depends on three main factors: rarity, condition, and demand. The 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny is rare because very few examples were ever identified. Most pennies from that year are worth only face value or a few cents to collectors, but the rare no mint mark versions with verified authentication are highly prized. Condition also plays a huge role. A coin that has circulated heavily and shows signs of wear may still be collectible, but its value will be far lower than a coin that has been preserved in mint state. Condition coins are graded on a numerical scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect, flawless coin. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC assign these grades, and their certification adds legitimacy to the coin. When a 1987 no mint mark penny is found in near perfect condition, its rarity multiplies its value exponentially. Demand completes the picture. Coin collectors often seek out these oddities because they represent history, accidents of production, and opportunities to own something very few people will ever possess. The numismatic community thrives on stories of people finding rare coins in pocket change and turning them into small fortunes. Such stories inspire both seasoned collectors and newcomers to search their change jars and examine their pennies more carefully. Imagine for a moment someone stumbling upon a 1987 penny while searching through an old jar of coins. Perhaps it looks just like any other common cent, but upon closer examination and verification, it turns out to be the rare no mint mark variety in pristine condition. Such a coin could bring a hammer price at auction nearing $76,987. This is life-changing money for a coin originally worth just 1 cent. It is the kind of story that makes the world of numismatics endlessly exciting. Let us pause here to reflect on what such coins represent. They are not merely monetary instruments, they are pieces of art and history. They connect us with the stories of our past, with the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, and with the technological processes of the U.S. Mint. They also remind us of the importance of details, of how even the smallest variations can carry immense significance for coin collectors today. The advice is always to pay close attention to the coins you encounter. Look for details such as the presence or absence of mint marks. Check the condition of the coin, and if you believe you have something rare, consult a professional grading service. You may just be holding a treasure without realizing it. The 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny also teaches us about perseverance. In the hobby, collectors often search through thousands of coins before discovering something truly special. The patience and passion required become part of the reward, and when one of these rare coins surfaces and sells for tens of thousands of dollars, it validates the dedication of the community. As we near the conclusion of this journey, let us summarize. The Lincoln penny began in 1909 as a tribute to President Lincoln. It has undergone design changes and composition changes, and it has been minted in billions, making it one of the most familiar coins in American life. Yet within those billions are rare anomalies like the 1987 no mint mark penny. Coins like this remind us that even in the most ordinary of objects, extraordinary Stories can be found today. The market value of $76,987 for such a coin demonstrates the ongoing fascination and value placed on rarity, history, and condition. So the next time you come across a penny from 1987, take a moment to look at it more carefully. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight. Perhaps in your hand could be one of the rarest and most valuable small coins ever produced in modern American history. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the history and value of the 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. If you enjoyed this exploration, be sure to subscribe, like, and share, because we will continue to uncover the hidden stories behind coins that could change your perspective on what is truly valuable. The year 1989 was not only a transitional period for the United States in terms of politics, culture, and economics, but also a fascinating year for coin collectors and numismatics enthusiasts who have always been captivated by the small details hidden within the coins we use every single day. Today we are going to embark on a deep journey into the history, significance, and current market value of the 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny coin, a coin that may appear small and ordinary in the palm of your hand, but is actually a gateway into a story filled with rarity, value, and history. This coin has stunned collectors and auction houses, with reports that one specimen reached a market value of over $51,827, and this kind of shocking figure has caused waves of excitement, curiosity, and inspiration across the world of numismatics. To understand why the 1989 no-mint mark penny has become so important, we first have to understand the long history of the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the very first circulating American coin to feature a real historical figure. Up to that point, coins were decorated with symbols, allegorical figures, or representations of liberty, but President Theodore Roosevelt wanted to see more realism and American pride reflected in everyday currency, so the design was created by Victor David Brenner, who placed the bust of Lincoln on the obverse side of the coin and the words "In God We Trust" proudly above his head. The introduction of this coin marked a turning point in United States coinage, and over the decades it evolved through several design changes, but Lincoln always remained the central figure. By the time 1989 arrived, the Lincoln penny had already been in circulation for 80 years. The wheat reverse had long been replaced with the Lincoln Memorial reverse that began in 1959, commemorating the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and this memorial reverse design continued through 2008. The penny struck in 1989 carried this Lincoln Memorial reverse, but what makes the no-mint mark variety so captivating is not just the design, but the unusual circumstances behind how mint marks function in the United States. Mint marks have been used for centuries to indicate where a coin was struck in the United States. Mint marks can include P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and W for West Point. Coins produced in Philadelphia generally did not carry a mint mark, especially for pennies, so most people seeing a penny without a mint mark would assume it came from Philadelphia. However, when we talk about specific rare errors or varieties like the 1989 no-mint mark penny, we are referring to an unusual case where either a coin was struck incorrectly, missing details that should have been present, or a small die error occurred that changed its identity and rarity. The rarity lies not in the ordinary 1989 Philadelphia penny, which is common, but in the distinct error strikes or flawless high-grade no-mint mark examples that stand apart from billions of ordinary cents. Billions of Lincoln pennies were struck in 1989, and the majority of them are worth only face value, but certain error coins and extremely high-quality no-mint mark examples have been found to fetch extraordinary amounts at auction. When you consider that some collectors have paid over $51,000 for a single penny, it forces us to stop and think about what really drives value in the coin world. Rarity, condition, demand, and historical intrigue all play a role. The grading process is one of the most crucial parts of determining a coin's value. Grading is performed by professional services such as PCGS and NGC, which carefully examine a coin for strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and eye appeal. A 1989 no-mint mark penny that is heavily circulated, worn down, or scratched will never command a premium value, but one that is preserved in mint state condition with little to no flaws can become a treasure. Mint state coins are graded on a scale from 60 to 70, with 70 being a perfect flawless strike. A 1989 no-mint mark penny graded MS 67 or higher can skyrocket in value far beyond what most people expect. One of the fascinating aspects of the coin world is that ordinary people often come Across these rarities, by accident, someone may empty their piggy bank, sift through pocket change, or inherit a jar of coins from a relative, only to discover later that one of those coins is worth a fortune. The 1989 no-mint mark penny is a perfect example of why people should never underestimate the power of coin collecting. Many reports exist of people sending a coin they thought was worth only 1 cent to be graded, only to discover that it was an extremely valuable variety. The specific reasons the 1989 no-mint mark penny reached a value of $51,827 in certain sales comes down to rarity. In high-grade condition, collectors are willing to compete for the best examples. The law of supply and demand ensures that the fewer perfect or rare error coins exist, the higher the price climbs. This is why auctions can sometimes shock the numismatic community, because enthusiastic bidding wars can send the value soaring. Now let us take a deeper look at what collectors actually look for in a 1989 penny. First is the strike quality. Sharp details on Lincoln's hair, the date, and the lettering are essential. The reverse showing the Lincoln memorials should have full steps, visible crisp lines, and no blurring. Second is the absence of wear or contact marks, which can drastically lower a coin's grade. Third are potential errors or varieties. Errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, double dies, or missing design elements can all add massive value to the coin even when found in circulated condition. For example, some 1989 pennies show doubling on the date or lettering. Others have off center strikes where the design is not properly aligned. Such unusual characteristics make each coin unique and desirable to error collectors. While not every no-mint mark penny will be valuable, those that display unique attributes and survive in superb condition are worth examining closely. It is also important to note that the composition of the 1989 penny is primarily copper-plated zinc. By 1982, the United States Mint had shifted away from the traditional 95% copper composition to save costs. Instead, pennies were made with a zinc core and only a thin copper coating. This change also meant that pennies struck after 1982 were more prone to damage, corrosion, and wear, so finding a pristine 1989 penny without flaws becomes even harder, which again adds to its scarcity. In top grades, the story of this coin is also tied to the human fascination with Lincoln himself. President Abraham Lincoln remains one of the most admired figures in American history. His image on the cent is a reminder of leadership, perseverance, and unity during one of the darkest times in the nation, the Civil War. Collectors often feel a sense of pride and connection to Lincoln when holding a coin that has carried his portrait for over a century. The no-mint mark rarity only deepens the intrigue because it combines both history and mystery in the modern market. The 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has a wide range of values. At the lowest level, circulated examples are worth face value or a few cents. In uncirculated condition, especially MS-65 or better, the values begin to climb into the hundreds of dollars. At MS-67 the coin can easily fetch thousands, and at MS-68 or higher, rarity and perfection meet together, which is where auction records soar. The top reported sale reaching $51,827 is a testimony to how fiercely collectors will compete for the very best. For anyone interested in collecting or investing in coins, it is a good idea to carefully examine your change. Search coin rolls from banks and consider sending coins to be graded if they appear flawless. Coin roll hunting has become a popular hobby where people buy boxes of pennies from banks and sort through them in hopes of finding rare varieties, and this is exactly how some lucky collectors stumble upon valuable coins without spending more than face value. Stories abound of people discovering life-changing finds hidden in ordinary circulation coins. The 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not only about its value, it is a story about patience, dedication, and the thrill of the hunt. It represents how something as small as a penny can hold a rich legacy of American history, artistry, and culture. It reminds us that treasures are not always hidden in faraway places. Sometimes they are in the change you hold in your pocket. As we reflect on this coin, it becomes clear why collectors remain fascinated by Lincoln cents more than any other United States coin. The series is long-running, accessible to beginners, and yet filled with rare gems that can be worth fortunes every single year. And the series has stories to tell, from the 1909 VDB to the steel cents of 1943 to the transitional varieties of the 1980s and 1990s, and of course the stunning discoveries of coins like the 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. So the next time you come across a penny from the late 1980s, take a closer look under a magnifying glass. Check for sharp details and pristine surfaces. You might be holding something worth far more than a single cent, you might be holding a coin that could one day command thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars, just as one did when it sold for $51,827. The story of the 1989 no-mint mark penny continues to inspire new collectors to join the hobby and continues to remind us that every coin has a journey, every coin has a story, and sometimes the most ordinary looking coins are the ones that hold the greatest secrets.